Hi. Okay. I had a request from a viewer to do a video on, the words mail merge with the confirmation letters and maybe even the registration. So what I thought I would do is go through and I'll do registration first. I've shown this before in when we were setting up our annual match, but it also has to do with the mail merge. So let's go ahead and look at that. First thing you want to do, and let me show you, in your SASS Premier directory, you have all kinds of confirmation letters, and you'll see these listed here. These are just examples that clubs use. How the confirmation letter works is when you're doing a confirmation letter, it'll come up and say, what's the confirmation letter number? And you would put in just the one or the one EOT or the one HOW or one HRP, just those last. And if you create a new one, you can use, you can go ahead and use one of these if you want to. If we go in and look at one of these, we'll just look at, say, this one. This happens to be a pretty complicated one. It's a very, very nice letter. It's from the siege at St. Augustine, and they have gone through and created a beautiful letter here, a confirmation letter with all the information including in it. Just really, really nice, but it's a big one, and if you wanted to do something like that, that's fine. You could go through and set up your own setup in here, change everything around, but it would take a little bit to do, but it's, like I said, it's a very, very nice letter. The other ones you have are there's some that are pretty standard, straightforward. This one here is just a standard, straightforward one, and not not a lot of, just a couple pages. It would work. You can go ahead and make your own up, change just a few things in there. There is also a standard one, which I will show you when we get into the when we do it through the program. The other thing is your registration forms. Now, this is something that I feel is very important, to get registrations out to shooters ahead of time. People start planning their vacations and maybe even their shooting schedules in the first part of the year. And if you have a match coming up in July or August or September or someplace, you might want to get your registration forms out to those people soon. So if they're planning, then they have a chance of saying, oh, well, look, we have this, so why don't we go do that? There's a lot of, also there's registration forms in here. Now, the way the registration form works is, if it has a 1 after with the form number, that is set up for emails only. So, we get okay, so if you're in the registration form, where did I go with it? There it is. The 1 is for if it has a 1 behind it, you would put, that's for emails. A 2 would be for regular mails, and a registration 3 would be for fill-in. So if you wanted to do a here's one. Well, we'll get into those later, but that's how those work. So when it comes up and says, what one do you want to do? We'll say 1 here. We'll just bring this up for a quick look, and then I'll bring it up in the program. This is how it comes up with, and Hell on Wheels has a very nice registration form. This happens to be from 2010, but it's just a matter of you going in, making changes to you can take the logos out, you can do whatever you want if you want, and most of the categories are pretty much the same. It takes a little bit to figure these out. So you go through and do all that. Now, Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go into the program and let's do a registration. So if we go in and we go into, remember in this, if you just key in the first letter, it will jump to that thing. So we're going to do registration form, and it's going to say print registration form, yes. And we're going to say it's going to be 1HOW, excuse me. Now it says print registration for all shooters. No, will print only non-registered shooters. So what we're going to do is, of course, we're going to say no, because no, we've got registration. We don't want to send registrations out again to those shooters that have already registered, or we're going to end up getting lots of emails back complaining about they have already registered. So we're going to say no. And you can select states for extract, so you could say I only want to send these to Wyoming or Colorado, or no, we'll do it to all the states. So we're going to say no. Now here's where that little wheel is spinning. If it looks like it's in a loop, but if we hold the Alt key down and press the tab, this is what comes up. It shows all the programs that are running, and this Microsoft Word is the document that's hiding behind the program that you don't see. So if we click on it, it brings it to the forward, and we can say yes. And here's where we can go in now, and how you do a merge is you go mailings. Now I like to do the step by step because it gives me a chance of walking through each one and seeing how it works. So I'm going to go step by step. I go to mailing, start mail merge, go to step by step mail merge wizard, and that brings this thing over here, and it says okay, mailing labels txt. That's the file that it's going to merge in. That's the one that the scoring program, the SASS program, created. So we're going to say next and next. Now this fills in the person's name. It says howdy, trailsman, and it also puts in all the information down here. Now you can actually, now what is, if you'll notice, it's put in the extras that you've had and the cost and stuff of them. It leaves some blank lines. A lot of times what I'll do, I'll go in and just clear out these blank lines, and I just highlighted them, and then I could just press this down. Now the other thing that you can do at this point is if you want to, you can create this as a PDF, and if you have Adobe, you can go ahead and create a on the computer fill out screen. I do that for clubs. If you have your registration form like this ready to go, and if you create it in a PDF, and how you do that is just go to File, Save As. Now this happens to be the word that the word that I'm using. If you're using a different word, it might be different, but I'm going to go in and change this and say I'm going to create a PDF. And I'm just going to create this test for right now, and I'll show you what it is. And then I'm going to save it in the SASS Premier directory. Okay, and then it brings it up. What I'm going to do though is I've created one ahead beforehand here. So let's go in and I'll show you what I've done, and it comes out pretty nice. Okay, registration form. There's how. This is the one. So what I have done is I've gone through and I've taken out those. I've taken out the names here. I've eliminated the name, and I've just said howdy and so forth. And then what I've done down here is I've also eliminated all that other information, and I've created a fill-in form. so that the shooter just can go in and go start filling in right on the screen. And also they've got the number of all your categories. All they do is check a category, and this is your total. Now if you'll notice, it adds the total, it brings the total down here. So say I'm going to do a camping fee of $32. It adds it up. So there's ways that you can do this, and I see where I should have put in a checkbox for each one of these, but I didn't. So, but you can do that. And then it comes down with these here, and they can check what they, if they're going to do any of these individual stuff. So when you're doing this, then all you would do, let's get out of this. I'm not going to save. I'm going to close all the tabs and don't save anything. And we'll get out of this one. Don't save it. What you do in that case is you take that registration form that you created, and you go and you can put it into the attachments directory. And there it is. I put it in there. So remember, anything in the attachments directory is going to be sent out attached to your special email. And then what you do is you go into your special email. Oop, didn't hit the wrong button. We'll hit S and go down to special email. And at this point we can go in and say Hell on Wheels invitation, and I've gone through and made some changes here and set this up. If we go to all, and then we can go in and say, okay, I want to send this to all shooters. And your database has 470 shooters with emails. Do you want to split these into groups? Well, yes, we do. And the reason for that is a lot of your email providers only allow so many emails a day to be sent out. So, and if you're sending out, if you've got 470 here to send out, you want to split those up into groups so that you don't overdo your limit and end up not being able to send any. You will still receive email, but you won't be able to send anything out. So we're going to say, we're going to split these into groups, and now it's going to say how many do you want in a group. Well, there again, it's up to your provider that will how many do they allow to go out in each group. Most of them are less than 100. And the reason for that, they think if you go more than that, they think they're sending out spam. So they're always trying to protect us. So I'm going to say, well, let's just say put 90 in a group just to be safe. The program then will go through and enter those into groups. And here's your groups have been set up. Okay. So then we would jump out of this. And then I like to go back and just check my groups just to see, and you'll see there's 90 in a group, and each group is set up. Remember, if you touch these, it'll sort by those. If anything that you hit will sort. So you could go through and also in here, and I've showed you this before, is to check the email addresses. Now all emails check out. Now what that does, it doesn't check to make sure that that is a good email. It just makes sure that it is formatted correctly. And if you get an error, it'll tell you what the shooter, who it is. If you find him in here, if you double click on the name, that shooter, it'll come up and you can go ahead and look at the email and see what's wrong. Maybe it's missing an @ sign or something. And when you're done with that, you just go ahead and then you can do your special email. Now remember, this only works with Outlook. So if you don't have Outlook, it's kind of, you might end up having to, you could purchase Outlook. I don't know how much it is, but Outlook is very good. You can bring in all your emails. It'll bring in Gmail, it'll bring in Yahoo, it'll bring in Comcast, Hotmail, whatever your email provider is, it will bring it in. So, okay, so once you've got that done, and you've registered some shooters, let's just take a look here and see what we got. Okay, we got a bunch of shooters registered, 147 of them. So say that we've registered. Now we want to go in and send out our confirmation letter. And if we say reports, confirmation letter, this would print confirmation letters. Yes, no will allow you to print an individual. So if some shooter calls up and says, I didn't get my confirmation letter, you can print an individual out by saying no here and entering your SASS number. Or there's another way, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So we're going to say yes. Print main match confirmation letters, yes. And you can also print a verification list. And by putting, no will, or a verification list, and no will do a wild bunch only. So we're going to say yes. And at this one, I'm going to try this 13. We're just going to give that a shot and see. And we're going to select email only just to see if it does. Oh, we'll select them both. You can do either email only, no will select without email, and cancel will do them both. I'm just going to do cancel to make sure that we get them all. Now at this point, it's going to sit here again with our little wheel running around, and some people sit there forever, but I'm going to do the Alt and the Tab, and there it is. There's our little message. So, and hit yes. Okay, now this, when we do the mail merge, once again, I do the mail step by step, and then we can just, you should come up in step 3, and we can do next, next, and here it fills in all the information for you. SASS program, and this is the name of the match, which would be your match name up here, and the name of the person and so forth. It goes through and gives it your shooter. Your shooter fees are $85, and you have paid $85 cash. The balance you do is no. So this one, it actually tells them what they paid and how much, what they were charged, how much they paid, and that's basically it's a one-page letter. It's pretty quick. Now at this point, you could go in and say finish merge, send an email, and at here you would pick out the email, and it says email at it right here, and then you could put in confirmation letter. And you can attach it as an attachment plane. I usually set them up as attachment. And then if I say OK, it'll start sending them out. Now, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to send them. It'll send them out one at a time. I'm going to cancel that. And this says the state. The state should probably be up here, and that's not a problem. We can fix that. I should have seen that before. But and so at this point, I'm not going to save this because I don't want to save the thing in there. And now it's going to come up and says, do you want to print a confirmation letter list? This will print out a list of all those letters that you just sent out. I'm going to say no. Do you wish to print mailing labels? Now, excuse me. Now, if you were printing, if you had say non-email people that you needed to send letters out to, this could print mailing labels for those. I don't like to do that. I would rather you have the name and address set up in a window envelope so that I can just stuff them in there without having to put a label on it. I find that sometimes putting labels on, you might get it mixed up with what's inside, and then you'd end up with someone would come in and say, hey, I got the wrong one. So we'll say no to this. And now it's going to say confirmation letters successful. Yes will mark as printed, no will not mark. So if I say yes to this, well, I'm going to say no because I still want to show you something. Also, Also, when you're doing those confirmation letters, let me bring that up real quick again. I wanted to show you, I wanted to mention something to you. Yes, 13. We'll do both. And we'll do the Alt Tab. Okay, let's go ahead and fix this, shall we? So I'm going to do Start Mail Merge, and I'm going to back up a step, back up another step. Okay, continue. Okay, I am going to get rid of this, and in here after this I'm going to put the state. And how I do that is I go to More Items. This brings up the list of all those things that were selected. I can select the state, say OK, close this. I'm going to put a space in between there. So now it'll come up correctly. And at this point I would want to save this because I want to save it as it is. Then I can go ahead and do Next, and it comes out Colorado, and so forth, next, and on down the line. Now, when you do the mailings, mail merge, and you do finish and merge, Microsoft has done something else that I find kind of annoying. Is when it's sending out your mail, it sends it out one at a time, and each time it comes up with a question. Do you want to send this out? Yes. Do you want to send this out? Yes. Now I found a little program. It's called Click Yes No, and it's very unintrusive, and it's a free thing you can download off the internet, or I can send it to you. And what it does, it's going to answer that yes for you. So instead of you sitting there, if you have 140 shooters to send out confirmation letters to, you're not going to have to sit there and go yes 147 times. It will do that automatically for you. Okay, that was the other little thing. So we're not going to, we already say that once. We'll go no, and no. So now say we get an email from myself, CD Tom. I know that I registered in here, and so I say I didn't get my confirmation letter. I can go in here, and in the additional shooters information, you will see that the confirmation letter was printed on 3/14/2016. So it was sent a long time ago, but I never got it, and I'm curious if I uncheck that. The next time I print confirmation letters, it will print another one for me. So it's just a way that you can go in and say, well, I sent you one on 3/14. Or you can just, don't have to, tell him that he lost it, or have him look in his junk mail or something. But if it's not checked, it means it hasn't been sent. We're going to check it and put it back. Okay. Confirmation letters. One of the things that when you're doing your registration form in your list, you have this little checkbox here. Those that are not checked, these check marks will not go onto your registration letter, and it also won't put them on the pack. You don't want, maybe you don't want to show, that a new family membership. Well, you don't need that on your registration form, so you could just check that and it wouldn't show up. Only those that are checked that are not checked will show up on your confirmation letter. You also want to make sure that your fees and the fees on your registration form are the same. You don't want to have two different sets of fees in there. That goes the same for your main match fees. You don't want to have your main match set up as, $85 in here and $195 on the registration form. So you want to make sure that you coordinate your fees with what's on your form. Okay. Let me see. I told you about the little yes/no block. I think that's in. Let me see here. I don't think I have it in here right now. But I can, like I said, if you decide you would like to use that, I would be more than happy to send it to you. It's just a very small little thing. You can activate it or deactivate it depending on how you want it to, when you're getting ready to do your letters. Once again, those letters only work if you have Outlook. I've tried to find ways to have other providers, but because there are so many different providers, it's almost impossible to come up with a standard email. So, and Outlook works very well. It's a nice program. I don't have any problem with it. I've been using it for a long time. It works very well. It's not the Outlook that's in when you go call up Microsoft Office or Microsoft on the internet. That's not the Outlook that it is. It's a standard Outlook. It comes with Office. And, I've helped people set it up. If you don't know how to set that up, I'd be more than happy to connect up using TeamViewer and go through and help you set that up. I've done that for quite a few gals. A lot of people will have two, emails, one for their cowboy and one for their business or one for their standard. And so they'll set their cowboy email up in Outlook and use their other one for, their other provider, whoever it is, AOL or whatever, for their other one. So, okay, well, I guess that should be about everything. Appreciate you watching, and once again, if you have any suggestions, I always looking for ideas on what videos to make. All right, thank you.